As it hits, the Saurornithoidids are small enough to crouch for cover. But the Tyrannosaurus are out in the open. The sand blasts their bodies. The harder they struggle, and the deeper they gasp for oxygen, the more sand fills their lungs. Until finally, they can't breathe. The superstorm engulfs much of the continent. It's hours before the winds die down. The last Tyrannosaurus, protected once again by the cave, heads to the watering hole on her own. Halfway there, she finds she's the last of the herd. But she's not the last remaining dinosaur in the neighborhood. Huddled close to a Tyrannosaurus corpse, the Saurornithoidids were sheltered from the worst of the storm. But the sand has swallowed their meal. Instinct drives them back to their prime hunting spot, the watering hole, where the last surviving Tyrannosaurus is taking in the much-needed fluid. She's lucky to be alive, but too exhausted to run from any new sign of danger. And danger has arrived. The Saurornithoidids are desperate for food, but they're weak from hunger and the buffeting of the sandstorm. Only one has the confidence to attack. Its prey is still too exhausted to run. But this time, size does matter. The remaining Saurornithoides moves in. But it has no intention of making a run at the Tyrannosaurus. Not when fate offers it a meal that can't fight back. A week after impact, food is in very short supply across the entire planet. Life is hardest for the plant eaters. Huge herbivores have to eat vast amounts just to sustain their massive bulk. But there are simply no plants to be found. They can only hope that something, somewhere, is growing. The carnivores carnivores are more fortunate. They can eat the herbivores. But two Triceratops are a little too much to take on. For now. 3 days after the asteroid impact, a once blue planet is shrouded in darkness, and the landscape is anything but green. Fire, heat, and acid rain have battered the terrain until it's unrecognizable. Normally, Triceratops wouldn't travel more than a few miles a day. They wouldn't have to. But now, most of the continent is stripped of vegetation. Hunger drives the giant herbivores toward the Pacific coast. The devastation reaches all the way to the sea. But geography has a way of protecting certain places from cataclysmic events. In this case, an island, apparently untouched by the surrounding desolation. There may still be food here. The female Quetzalcoatlus has been flying for 3 days. She's weak and in desperate need of food. From 1,000 feet up, the island comes into view. But all is not as peaceful as it seems. Deep below the surface, the ocean floor was shaken by the asteroid's initial impact. Sedimentary rock disintegrates under the strain and collapses hundreds of feet into the ocean floor. On the surface, sea level plunges, triggering a massive swell. At the coast, the ocean is dragged back hundreds of feet from the land, exposing huge expanses of seabed. The path to the island is suddenly dry land. The forest ahead of them appears untouched by the hellstorm of the ejecta. It seems too good to be true. Half a mile from the coast, the 3 Triceratops finally reach the promised land. Sheltered from the ejecta by sea mist and protected from fires by the surrounding ocean, the island has all the food they need. The Quetzalcoatlus hasn't had a decent meal in days. Asteroid has awakened the ocean's most destructive force, a mega tsunami. A wall of water 300 feet tall. Within seconds, the land is deluged. as quickly as it came, the flood is gone. But this is only one in an immense army of mega tsunamis. The asteroid impact launches them against more than 13,000 miles of coast. Huge swaths of shoreline simply wash away into the sea. The avalanche of water leaves countless dead in its wake. But as devastating as the first wave of disasters is, there's more to come. In the days following the asteroid's arrival, a series of plagues have been unleashed on the planet. Firestorms, earthquakes, sandstorms, and towering tsunamis. But these are only the outward signs of a catastrophe that reaches much deeper. Across the continents, thousands of dinosaurs may be walking, but their species are already dead. Because to survive, any species needs to maintain a critical mass of population. Fall below that threshold, and there's no way to climb back from certain extinction. The final nail in the coffin may take a while to develop, but it's no less deadly and no less final. The coup de grace for the dinosaurs comes from inside the planet. Because when a rock 6 miles across slams into the Earth at 45,000 miles per hour, it shoots 1 million megatons of energy straight into the ground. Seismic shock waves ripple through the planet. The aftershocks continue for months as tectonic plates shear and tear. Deep inside the planet, they trigger molten rock to force its way to the surface through newly formed fractures. Until it explodes from the Earth's crust in violent volcanic eruptions. The seismic waves awaken dormant volcanoes around the world. Adding to the debris clouds of dust and toxic gases that already surround the globe. The shroud is already many miles deep. A thick blanket, stopping light and warmth reaching the Earth's surface. The planet plunges further into a nuclear winter. In the days and weeks that follow, the only growth to thrive is fungus, which lives off the rotting remains. Here in Mongolia, few signs of dinosaurs remain. And for the starving Tyrannosaurus, the future looks bleak. But it stays near the cave that has saved it twice in the past. The watering hole that once provided plenty. But the last Tyrannosaurus doesn't fall victim to starvation. Bubbling to the surface is one of nature's most toxic gases, hydrogen sulfide. Released from deep underground by volcanic activity, it collects invisibly in low-lying areas, like the waterhole's natural basin. The gas paralyzes the lungs, making escape impossible. Then it kills. by suffocation. What was once a refuge is transformed into a death trap. The last dinosaur in this part of Mongolia is dead. Mexico, too, is a graveyard. Just 500 miles from ground zero, it's been hit by wave after wave of devastation. There would seem to be little else that nature could throw at it. And yet, amidst all this destruction, beneath a thin layer of charred soil, a lone Alamosaurus egg survives. In the Pacific Northwest, just a handful of dinosaurs patrol the gray wasteland. An Ankylosaurus, severely weakened by hunger, searches the charred terrain for something to eat. 25 feet long and weighing 4 tons, this heavily armored herbivore is used to getting nearly 300 pounds of food every day. All it can find now is a small bush. And even that won't come without a fight. But hunger is the least of their worries. It's two of this world's best armored warriors versus a hungry carnivore that won't take no for an answer. Ankylosaurus's main defense weapon is a heavy tail club. But it's too weak to get in a good shot. Not so T-Rex. With food sources disappearing, starving giants are forced to fight for every calorie, even to the death. So the dinosaurs that outlast the ejecta, firestorms, and poison gas ultimately fall victim to the demands of their own massive bodies. It took 160 million years to bring the dinosaurs to this point in their evolution. It took just one rock to bring them down. The events triggered by the impact flashed by at breakneck speed. seismic shocks caused massive earthquakes. Boulders the size of buildings rained down, followed by a brutal blast wave, all within the first 3 minutes. By the time the superheated ejecta cloud hit Mongolia, just 44 minutes later, the whole planet was in shock. In the coming days, forest fires razed the earth. Violent dust storms destroyed entire ecosystems. Titanic waves wrecked coastlines. Put all these together, and it's hard to believe that anything on Earth could have survived. But something has. Mexico, 500 miles from the point of impact. The very first landmass to feel the force of the asteroid's strike. A region that has suffered wave upon wave of violence. Yet even here, even now, life remains. The last surviving Alamosaurus egg. Buried safe within the soil, a chick has survived the barrage of destruction. And he's not alone. All around the world, small handfuls of dinosaurs try to start over. But inbreeding and disease weaken their tiny populations. Eventually, the huge numbers of dinosaurs that had ruled the world are reduced to a single solitary dinosaur. Then it too is gone. And with it, a dynasty that had ruled the earth for 160 million years. But dinosaurs weren't the only animals on the planet. There were other humbler life forms that had lived in the dinosaur's shadow for a very long time. When floods and firestorms hit, they found shelter underground. Some hid deep inside trees and plants. Others took refuge beneath the soil. And small mammals like Mesoderma survived by scampering into burrows. Down here, they were protected from the worst the asteroid could throw at them. The Earth would be inherited by animals that were good at hiding. Fish were sheltered beneath the water. So were the aquatic reptiles. Birds, especially waterfowl, could survive by diving underwater or hiding in burrows. It would be years before all the sun's energy could reach the land again. But the heavy cloud slowly begins to clear. In the Gulf of Mexico, where the asteroid struck, a shallow crater can be seen. A tiny scar for such a fatal wound. Out of the ruins, nature starts over. Simple organisms like mold and fungus dominate the burned and rotting landscape. Then new growth emerges. And one plant in particular, ferns. Tough and resilient, they soon carpet the planet in green. It takes thousands of years for ferns to give way to forests, breathing oxygen and life into the planet again, and setting the stage for a new era. Because waiting in the wings are creatures whose development had long been thwarted by the dinosaurs, the mammals. Unlike the dinosaurs, the mammals are fast breeders, brilliant adapters. They multiply and diversify. 10,000 species exploding across the planet. But it's millions of years before one very important species branches off from its relatives and comes down from the trees. They walk on two legs, evolve bigger brains, and eventually rule the planet, just as the dinosaurs once did. But unlike them, they'll reshape the world, building cities that touch the sky, vehicles that can leave the planet, and weapons that can destroy it. But none of it could have been possible if a chance collision in space 165 million years ago hadn't sent an asteroid hurtling toward Earth and doomed the dinosaurs to extinction. Only because they died can human beings live.